Welcome to one of the deepest psychological conversations about human behavior. Today we are talking about a fear so powerful that it silently controls careers, relationships, confidence, creativity, leadership, and even identity itself. That fear is rejection. Most people believe they are afraid of failure, but if we look carefully, many humans are actually afraid of the emotional humiliation attached to a failure. They are afraid of being judged, criticized, ignored, excluded, laughed at, abandoned, or emotionally disconnected from others. Think about how many opportunities people never take simply because they fear hearing the word no. Think about how many dreams die silently inside human beings because approval from society feels safer than authenticity. Throughout this video, I'm going to share the breakdown of the science, psychology, biology, social conditioning, leadership implications, childhood programming, and emotional consequences behind the fear of rejection. We will also discuss about the controversial truths modern society rarely talks about openly. By the end of this video, you may be completely change how you view the rejection forever. Every single human being watching this video has experienced rejection at some point in the life. Some people experienced it in relationships, some experienced it in school, others experienced it in workplaces, friendships, business, family, or social media. Maybe you sent a message and waited anxiously for a reply that never came. Maybe you walked into a room and felt invisible while everyone else connected naturally. Maybe you expressed your opinion publicly and were criticized or ignored. Maybe you tried to open your heart emotionally and someone rejected your vulnerability. Maybe you stayed silent in meetings because you feared sounding unintelligent. Rejection is not always dramatic. Sometimes the deepest rejection happens quietly. Humans remember emotional exclusion deeply because it creates a feeling that something may be wrong with them personally. That is why rejection hurts beyond logic. It attacks emotional safety and identity at the same time. Most people underestimate how deeply rejection controls modern society. Entire industries operate around human desire for acceptance. Fashion trends, beauty standards, social media culture, workplace politics, public image, and even personal relationships are heavily influenced by fear of exclusion. Many people do not choose careers based on passion, they choose based on approval. Many individuals remain trapped in unhealthy relationships because loneliness feels emotionally safer than the rejection. Some people avoid expressing original ideas because they fear criticism from the crowds. Others spend years pretending to be someone they are not simply to feel accepted socially. This is why understanding rejection is extremely important. Fear of rejection quietly shapes personalities, limits potential, weakens confidence, and suppresses authenticity. Many humans never realize that they are not truly living freely, they are simply living carefully. To truly understand the rejection, we must go far back into human evolution. Thousands of years ago, humans survived in tribes and communities. Survival depended on cooperation, belonging, and protection from the group. If a human was rejected or excluded from the tribe, survival became extremely difficult. Isolation often means danger, starvation, exposure to predators, or death. Because of this reality, the human brain evolved to treat social rejection as a survival threat. Even though modern society is technologically advanced, the emotional wiring inside the brain has not changed completely. Today, when someone is criticized publicly, ignored socially, or excluded emotionally, the brain often reacts as though survival itself is under threat. This explains why even small rejection experiences can create intense emotional reactions. Humans are not weak for feeling rejection deeply, they are biologically programmed to fear social exclusion. Human beings are deeply social creatures. From birth, humans naturally seek connection, recognition, validation, approval, affection, and belonging. Neuroscience research has shown that emotional rejection activates brain regions similar to physical pain. This means rejection is not imaginary pain. The brain processes social exclusion almost like physical injury. That is why phrases like that hurt emotionally are biologically meaningful. Humans crave belongings because social connection historically increased survival chances. This social wiring explains why compliments feel rewarding and criticism feels threatening. It explains why applause creates excitement and public embarrassment creates anxiety. Modern humans may appear independent externally, but emotionally, most people are still highly sensitive to how they are perceived socially. The human brain constantly monitors acceptance, status, and belonging within the groups. For many people, fear of rejection begins during the childhood. Childhood is one of the most psychologically vulnerable stages of human development because identity is still forming. A child's emotional world is heavily shaped by how parents, teachers, friends, and society respond to them. Constant criticism, bullying, neglect, comparison, humiliation, emotional abandonment, or conditional love can deeply damage self worth. Imagine a child repeatedly hearing phrases like, "Why can't you be better?" or "People will laugh at you." Over time, these experiences slowly create dangerous subconscious beliefs. The child may begin associating rejection with personal worthlessness. Many adults today are still emotionally reacting from wounds created decades earlier during the childhood. They fear criticism not because they are weak, but because old emotional pain never fully healed. Educational systems unintentionally train many humans to fear rejection. Students are often rewarded for correct answers and emotionally punished for the mistakes. Public embarrassment becomes associated with the failure. Many children slowly become afraid to raise their hands, ask questions, challenge ideas, or think differently because social humiliation feels emotionally painful. Over time, school environments sometimes teach students that approval is safer than originality. Creativity decreases because perfection becomes more important than curiosity. This creates a deeply controversial question society rarely discusses honestly. Are schools truly teaching confidence, independent thinking, and emotional resilience, or are they training humans to fear mistakes and seek external approval constantly? Many adults still carry classroom anxiety into professional life decades later. Social media transformed rejection into a public performance. In previous generations, rejection happened privately between individuals. Today, rejection happens publicly through likes, comments, followers, views, shares, and online engagement metrics. Humans now measure social value numerically. A post receiving low engagement can emotionally affect self worth. People compare themselves constantly against careful edited digital life. Only online criticism spreads rapidly, creating fear of humiliation before massive audiences. Many individuals begin attaching emotional value to algorithms without realizing it. This creates psychological dependency on the validation. Social media companies understand human desire for approval deeply because emotional engagement keeps people addicted to the platforms. Modern rejection has become visible, measurable, and public in ways previous generations never experienced. Leadership and rejection are deeply connected. Every influential leader in history faced criticism, resistance, doubt, mockery, or rejection at some point. Leadership naturally attracts disagreement because leaders introduce change, challenge norms, and influence people emotionally. Many humans desire leadership recognition but fear leadership isolation. Real leadership requires emotional courage, strong enough to survive misunderstanding and criticism. Visionary individuals are often rejected before they are respected because new ideas initially feel uncomfortable to the society. Fear of rejection prevents countless people from becoming leaders because standing alone emotionally feels dangerous. Many people would rather remain socially accepted than risk being criticized publicly for thinking differently. Fear of rejection is one of the biggest reasons humans remain silent. People hide opinions, suppress emotions, avoid difficult conversations, and silence creativity simply to avoid the judgment. Many individuals wear emotional masks daily because authenticity feels risky. Some employees remain silent in the meetings despite having brilliant ideas. Some people never confess love because they fear emotional humiliation. Some creators never publish content because they fear criticism. Some leaders never challenge injustice because social acceptance feels safer than the truth. Over time, humans slowly become socially acceptable versions of themselves rather than authentic versions. This creates emotional exhaustion because pretending requires constant mental energy. Rejection is not only emotional, it is biological. When humans experience rejection, the body activates stress responses immediately. Cortisol levels increases, anxiety rises, heart rate changes, sleep becomes disturbed, overthinking intensifies, emotional pain activates survival systems inside the brain. This is why rejection can feel physically exhausting. The nervous system treats social exclusion seriously because emotional connection historically affected survival. Many people underestimate how deeply emotions affect physical health. Chronic fear of rejection can lead to anxiety disorders, social withdrawal, low confidence, emotional instability, and long term psychological stress. Emotional pain is the real pain. Introverts often process rejection internally and deeply. Many introverts replay conversations repeatedly in their minds, analyzing every word, facial expression, and social interaction. They may silently question themselves for days after emotionally uncomfortable experiences because introverts tend to think deeply. Rejection can stay active inside their minds much longer. Some introverts withdraw socially not because they dislike people, but because emotional overstimulation and fear of judgment become mentally exhausting. Society sometimes misunderstands introverts as emotionally distant, when in reality, many introverts feel emotions extremely deeply internally. Many people incorrectly assume extroverts do not fear rejection. However, some extroverts constantly seek validation precisely because they fear emotional invisibility. Attention, humor, confidence, charisma, and social energy can sometimes become protective emotional shields. Some extroverts fear silence because silence removes external reassurance. Confidence and insecurity often coexist inside human beings. A person may appear socially powerful externally while silently struggling with the self-worth internally. This reminds us that fear of rejection exists across all personality types differently. Romantic rejection creates some of the deepest emotional pain humans experience because love involves vulnerability, attachment, emotional exposure, and identity. When humans emotionally invest in someone deeply, rejection can feel like emotional collapse. People often begin questioning attractiveness, worth, personality, intelligence, or lovability after romantic rejection. Humans naturally fear abandonment because emotional bonds create psychological dependency and attachment security. Romantic rejection feels especially painful because humans often attach their self worth to whether they are chosen or desired by someone emotionally important to them. Professional rejection affects millions of humans daily. Job applications getting ignored, businesses fail publicly, entrepreneurs loses investments, creators receive criticism, public projects invite judgment constantly. Many individuals internalize these experiences personally. They begin believing rejection proves inadequacy. However, rejection often reflects timing, market conditions, compatibility, preferences, or circumstances rather than personal worth. The emotionally dangerous mistakes humans make is confusing my work was rejected with I am worthless. This confusion destroys confidence unnecessarily. Modern society increasingly rewards approval-seeking behavior. Social acceptance often becomes more valuable than authenticity. People fear disagreement because disagreement risks criticism, exclusion, or cancellation. Many individuals avoid speaking uncomfortable truths publicly because maintaining social safety feels emotionally easier. Crowds sometimes attack originality because independent thinking threatens the group comfort. Humans naturally imitate socially accepted behavior because belonging feels psychologically secure. This creates a culture where many people monitor themselves constantly instead of expressing themselves honestly. Humans naturally move towards group behavior because isolation historically created danger. Crowd mentality exists partly because belonging feels emotionally protective. People copy trends, beliefs, behaviors, and opinions because standing alone creates psychological discomfort. Humans often fear social isolation more than intellectual dishonesty. This explains why independent thinkers are frequently criticized initially. The emotional cost of individuality can feel extremely high in social environments. Many people silence their real thoughts simply to maintain group acceptance. Internet amplified rejection fear dramatically. Today, one opinion, mistake, misunderstanding, or controversial statement can create global criticism instantly. Humans now fear screenshots, online outrage, digital humiliation, public shaming, and permanent reputation chain damage. Because of this, many individuals self censor continuously online. They carefully filter thoughts before speaking publicly because emotional consequences feel enormous. Cancel culture intensified psychological fear because rejection no longer happens quietly. It happens publicly before massive audiences. Although rejection feels painful, it can become one of the most transformative forces in human life. Rejection builds resilience, emotional maturity, self awareness, adaptability, and the mental strength. Sometimes rejection redirects humans towards opportunities they would never have discovered otherwise. Some relationships end because they were unhealthy. Some failures occur because growth was necessary first. Some doors closed because better environments exist elsewhere. Rejection often reveals who truly supports us emotionally. Most importantly, surviving rejection teaches humans they are emotionally stronger than they originally believed. Almost every successful individual faced repeated rejection before success. Entrepreneurs were doubted, Scientists were mocked, artists were criticized, creators were ignored, visionaries were misunderstood. The difference is not that successful people avoided the rejection. The difference is they continued despite emotional discomfort. Public admiration often arrives after years of public doubt. Many people quit too early because they interpret rejection as proof they should stop. However, rejection is often simply part of the growth process. Overcoming fear of rejection requires emotional rewiring. Humans must learn to separate identity from outcomes. Rejection does not define human value. Emotional discomfort must be accepted rather than avoided because avoidance strengthens fear psychologically. Humans must also stop expecting universal approval because it is impossible. Authenticity naturally attracts both support and criticism. Practicing honesty, emotional courage, self expression, and resilience slowly weakens rejection fear over time. Real confidence develops internally, not externally. Self acceptance is one of the greatest forms of emotional freedom. When humans stop depending entirely on external approval for self worth, emotional stability increases dramatically. Criticism still hurts sometimes, but it no longer destroys identity completely. Self acceptance allows humans to exist authentically without constantly seeking permission from the society. This doesn't mean becoming emotionally numb or arrogant. It means understanding that human value exists independently from public opinion. Gratitude changes emotional focus powerfully. Fear constantly asks, what if people reject me? Gratitude asks, what meaningful things already exist in my life? This emotional shift reduces dependency on validation. Grateful individuals often become emotionally stronger because happiness no longer depends entirely on social approval. Gratitude creates grounding perspective, emotional peace, and resilience during difficult moments. It reminds humans that life contains value beyond popularity or acceptance. At this stage of the video, tell an emotional transformation story. Describe someone who experienced painful rejection early in the life. Perhaps rejection from family, society, relationships, or career opportunities. Describe their emotional struggles vividly. Explain how they doubted themselves, felt isolated, questioned their worth, and experienced emotional darkness. Then slowly show how rejection become fuel for personal growth, resilience, wisdom, and the success. Stories emotionally connect audiences far more deeply than information alone because stories allow humans to emotionally experience transformation. The greatest misunderstanding humans made make is attaching rejection to identity. Being rejected doesn't mean being worthless. Sometimes rejection is protection. Sometimes rejection redirects life towards healthier opportunities, stronger relationships, deeper wisdom, or greater purpose. Humans often spend years fearing rejection without realizing that rejection frequently becomes the beginning of transformation. Painful moments sometimes create powerful growth. Rejection can either destroy confidence or build emotional strength, depending on how humans interpret the experience internally. Now ask yourself honestly, what would your life look like if fear of rejection no longer controlled your decisions? What dreams would you pursue? What truths would you speak openly? What version of yourself has remained hidden simply to stay socially accepted? Fear of rejection has silently limited millions of people emotionally, creatively, professionally, and spiritually. Do not allow it to control your future anymore. If this video connected with you deeply, comment below with the biggest rejection lesson life has taught you personally. Share this video with someone rebuilding confidence after an emotional pain, and subscribe for more deep psychology, leadership, emotional intelligence, human behavior, and mindset transformation content.